Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Monday, I guess, 12th day now of September 2022. Well, I hope everybody had a good week last week. We now have smoke again in the area. I think, what is it, the Cedar Creek fire? One report yesterday said it was at 51,000 acres, and then NPR had one that it was over 80 some thousand acres. So I don't know when both were written. There may have been a significant time frame between the two. So I don't know. All I know is that the full moon was red completely. And so I don't know. Or, well, I shouldn't say the full moon was. What, were we out on the full moon? Could we even see it? I think so. It was either Maiden or no, it was the full moon. Maiden was not, but and I got some cool pictures of that. But all my pictures of the full moon were red. There was no visibility on the crone moon, so that was it was just too much smoke and too many clouds, and so um, didn't get any of it last night. So other than we couldn't go out because there was smoke everywhere. Anyway. I guess well, we did get our COVID booster on Friday, and the Omicron one, and my husband had probably more of a reaction to it. I didn't really have one, so, and he really didn't have one either, but his arm hurt and he was feeling achy the next day, and I was a little bit that night, but really nothing to speak of. So we're all good, I guess, for another year now, they're saying. I don't know, unless something happens, I suppose. But let's go ahead and take a look at the esoteric influences for today. For the 12th, 12 reduces to 3. So we have a 3 numerology, triplicities, mind, body, spirit, balance, creativity, things like that. Yira is the Elder Futhark rune, meaning year or cycles or unfolding awareness even. It's comprised of Kenaz, forward and reverse, and Kenaz is the torch or the light of spirit. So unfolding awareness with Yira. Conjunctio is joining or union. The moon's in Aries, and so balance and alignment are key components that can have a positive influence on a relationship with a close partner today. Although you're ready to take a risk, your partner may not be as willing to do so. And it may also be that your partner has a more realistic opinion that could serve a better outcome. So you might want to take the time to understand what your partner is saying before immediately dismissing that perspective. Remember, Mercury's still in retrograde, so miscommunication is a factor all week long. Let's see. Remember that it's easy for one's ego to get in the way when challenges, whether perceived or real, arise. And it's best now to have the flexibility and intuitive awareness and maybe some humility, I don't know, to shift gears when your partner's concerns are factored in. Sometimes we get on a roll and we think what we want to do is just the greatest thing since sliced bread, but then you'll get someone else going, but did you think about this? It's like, no. So I don't know. It kind of feels like that's what's going on today. So anyhow, let's move this over here to the side. But we'll keep it up just in case I draw one of the runes that are part of today's esoteric influences. That's been happening occasionally of late. So we'll see if we can bring some of it into the reading if it's appropriate to do so. If not, then, just keep it in mind. You can find that, by the way, over on the blog at imsteppingaside.com, along with some other stuff I did. The ascendant rays, nodes, and aspects influencing the week. That's kind of an esoteric astrology sort of thing. And then there's also the daily correspondences for work and magic over there. Those are all up. And then I did another one. I started a thing called Herb of the Week. This week is I think it's, is it agrimony this week? I think. But here we have Iwas for the rune for today. Now this is the link between realms. It's essentially Laguz forward. I know it might look like it's reversed down there, but watch what happens when you turn it this way. It's forward again. So realistically, it's like a spiral. And it's really going in the same direction. And the flow comes from spirit awareness or higher awareness. and so, it's about harmony. It's, kind of reflects the water element. But it's essentially the connection between opposites. It's an as above, so below rune, link between realms. It's useful in trance work. It's a protective type of a rune because, again, awareness is coming from spirit and not from ego. Ego gets in the way of everything, as we talked about it here in the esoteric influences. So I guess maybe it does sort of align with that. Well, let's see. We have today, looks like Tristitia, which is joy. Not Tristitia, I'm sorry, Laetitia, which is joy. Tristitia is sorrow and sadness and grief and condemnation and all of that. Let's see, where in my little bowl is it? Is it this one? Laetitia. So Laetitia is about joy. And if you're allowing higher self, higher awareness to inform how you're seeing things, if you see things from that broader perspective, less judgmental and all of that, then it's easier, I think, to stay positive and bring joy into your life. So this is Laetitia. Tristitia would be the opposite of it. So you have an active principle for fire. And the rest is all passive. Air, water, and earth are all passive. So clearly you have that impetus for the spark of life also when the fire element is active. So there's that as well to think about when you think about Laetitia. But let's go ahead and take a look at the cards for today. I'll just shuffle a little bit more and see if we can get some information. Because at this point, that's pretty nebulous. It's like, okay, flowing in spirit, the connection between opposites. Maybe with the connection between opposites, if you think about it on the horizontal plane of reality, of physical reality, then maybe the connection between opposites and Laetitia, finding joy there. Instead of being at odds with one another, find the unity and the harmony, maybe. That might be another way to look at that. So, but it's just interesting. It's like a pinwheel, really. And you watch a pinwheel blow in the wind. That's kind of that's the structure here of Iwas. So you could think about it as the spiral, energetic movement into form, into reality. Physical reality, maybe. That might be another way of seeing that. Okay, so we start out with the King of Swords, so one card from the court and from the air element. And then we have the Five of Pentacles, which Pentacles is the earth element, and we have the Seven of Cups, which is the water element. Now, let's see, 7 and 5 is 12. So that's 3, which is, again, it matches today's, exactly to today's day and numerology overall. We'll see if we need to take another card. I don't know that we will, though. I think I'm going to put the King at the end, though. Let's start with the 5 of, because there's an element of not seeing what's there, or not seeing, depending on how you want to read these two cards, it's not seeing things clearly. And the King of Swords is either going to help that or not. I would feel better if it was the Queen of Swords, but it's not. So here we have the 5 of Pentacles. Now we see 2 people walking out in the snow. One's on crutches. If you could see this a little more clearly, you would see a bandage on this guy's head. Maybe you can see it there if I try to hold my hand really still. I don't seem to be able to do that, though. Let's see. And then you see snow is falling everywhere, and you see what is likely a church that they're walking by with the stained glass window. We'll just assume that. If you don't want to see it as a church, you could see it as a building where support is possible. But they're walking by, they don't even seem to see it. So there's been a change in circumstances with the 5. It has to do with material security with pentacles. And I mean, you could even look at this as a card of destitution in a way, because they seem to be homeless, and they're infirm, they're not well. So something has happened in their lives to create this situation for them, and they could feel so overwhelmed. I mean, it's like they're walking in against the elements, if you will, because it almost looks like the snow is blowing at them and they're leaning into it. And so there's just a lot of stuff in their way. They can't see a positive future really with this change that has happened. And I think that help could be available behind that stained glass window, but either it's not, either the doors are closed to them, or they just can't see that it's there. It's one of the two. Sometimes, we get caught up in challenges that are happening, and it's hard to ask for help. It's hard to know what to do. You don't know where to turn. And when I see the Five of Pentacles, that's the feeling I get off of it. It's like I'm just not sure what to do with what's going on. Everything just seems so enormous in my life, and I'm not really sure which path to take. I don't know who to ask. I don't know who to reach out to. And help could be right there, and people could be saying, "But I have advice to give you. I can share this with you, but you just can't hear it." I mean, they may in fact do that, and you just can't hear it. So there's that feeling that I have when I see this card. The Seven of Cups, though, I tend to. I mean, it can either be your head is in the clouds and you're dreaming. You're just in dream state and you're not being realistic. Too many options to consider. The fact that the creators of this deck draw this with the dark clouds behind, it's so evident that I don't remember if the actual original Rider-Waite draws the clouds so dark there. I don't think so, but I haven't used that deck in a while. But this card, it's really about illusion and a lack of balance. And there, with Seven, you're dealing with balance, you're dealing with observation, legal issues, spirituality, magic, all of that. You think with the Seven, you think the scales and letting everything settle out. Well, that's not really happening here. This is really a focus on, and maybe even a lack of balance. There's just too many things to consider. Now, on a positive end of this, and it just depends on the other cards, you could read this as dreaming new dreams. I mean, if you don't think about possibilities, how do you ever then reach for them, right? It might seem like it's out of reach, but then you start thinking about it and planning and strategizing, and you figure out a way to make it possible. So I don't know. I think it just depends. I've always tried in the past to see this as more about dreaming new dreams, but maybe that was a bias or something in the beginning when I started doing tarot. But I guess with this one, I think that you're aligning these two maybe together a little bit, where you're not being realistic in the issues that you're dealing with. You can't really see the forest for the trees, and in the Five, maybe you're not even willing to see that help is available, at least not at this point. You're so overwhelmed, in other words, by what's going on, and and that happens, doesn't it? It happens to everyone, where you feel like, geez, what do I do? And you're so focused on what's happening, what you're going through, you can't see a way out of it. It's like when I was really sick with rheumatoid arthritis, I was severe for, like, I don't know, 13, 14, 15 years, something like that. It's like it went from we didn't know what it was to all of a sudden exploded into this acute phase that stayed that way. It's like, how many, all fire trucks come to the fire kind of a situation. I couldn't believe what was happening, and I went to the doctor. I went to all of that. Herbs weren't helping. And so I went to a rheumatologist, and I actually ended up with 6 different rheumatologists over the time I was sick, because they kept moving away. And eventually I decided, after reading Bruce Lipton's book, The Biology of Belief, that that I could start talking to my cells. I also became a cannabis patient, thinking I wasn't going to heal anyway. So I'll just try to make myself feel a little more comfortable, because nothing they gave me worked, and to bring me into some measure of control. My body was getting more and more toxic and all of that. And so I became a cannabis patient. We grew. I did my medicines, and when I began that regimen, 2.5 months later, I'm in remission. So I don't take any RA drugs now. I've been in remission since 2011. So almost, tomorrow's the 13th, I will have been in remission. Let's see, that would be 11 and a half years or a little more. So I guess, I didn't see the possibility of being well. They convinced me, but yet I struggled against that. And it's like, it's like, really? I can't get out of this? Well, yeah, I did. And so I don't know. But it's that feeling of being so consumed by this whole point about what I'm saying here. It's that you're so consumed by what's happening to you that even when you do go and try to find solutions, you're in the wrong place and you're not going to get them there, or something, right? The solutions aren't there. So it could be that even with the 5, the church behind is just not providing the solutions or the options or the ideas or whatever that these people need. Again, maybe the door is closed and they can't come in, and they can't get out of the cold. And so it just feels like it's overwhelming, and maybe you get involved in something that is not realistic as an option. And then enter the King of Swords. Again, I'd feel better if this was the Queen, but with the King, he's an older man in authority. So it could be talking about using your own inner authority here, to insist on and assert yourself more, advocate more on your behalf. Maybe that's the actual phrase to use. Advocate more on your behalf. He's analytical. He's powerful. He's logical. He's clever. He's the boss. You can feel very powerless here. And you can just feel like, again, that there are no solutions, that you can't get yourself out of the situation that you're in, when it's very possible that it's just you haven't found the solution yet. And so I guess what I'm saying here is, if this is happening, maybe don't focus too much on illusion. But on the other hand, if you look at this as looking at options, then you have to be able to do that as well. So there's 2 probably ways that you can look at these 2 cards. But again, trying to take a more analytical approach, analyze the situation objectively. Again, if this is involving a mentor, you could find a trusted mentor, either a parent or an uncle or an aunt, or someone in your life that you think has a lot of life experience. Heck, they may go, oh yeah, I went through that, or I had a friend go through that, and this is what they did, this is who they talked to, this is how they dealt with it. And I think that maybe you might try these things. So again, the King could represent either your own inner authority today, or a wise mentor that can help you sort through what's going on in your life and find some other solutions. So you can again look at the 7 in 2 ways: either lots of options to consider, or this is illusion, and just let go of that kind of stuff. It's not going to get you anywhere. But again, maybe you need some help to some advice to sort it out. With the King of Swords is also about legal stuff. Maybe you need to see an attorney. Maybe you need to see some kind of a counselor that can help you with something. But again, if things feel overwhelming, you have to do something to get yourself out of that feeling of being overwhelmed. And that way you can look realistically at the problem, perhaps with some kind of an advisor, whether it's a doctor or an attorney or a spiritual counselor or something, and again, maybe at that point you can see that help is available there. And I realize, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a religious church. It doesn't have to be anything like that. It's just the notion that a church seems to evoke with there's help beyond these doors, right? And some people would say, "Oh no, that's not true. There's no help there." But I'm just saying that metaphorically speaking, that could be what that there's help available, but they can't see it. They're too wrapped up in their own drama, their own situation, their own life situation. Maybe you lose a job, maybe you're having to leave your home because of it, or there's some big change in your home life where you can no longer live where you are, and something else needs to happen. But at that point, if that's the case, then you can't, well, you can look at options, but you need to discard the ones that are completely unrealistic and focus on the ones that are doable. And if you need somebody to talk to, then find a wise mentor, either of a legal nature or spiritual nature or counseling nature, something, a friend, someone you view as having some life experience that can help you sort out what's going on today, or what's been going on. So that you can settle it in your mind a little bit more and not be so caught up in the experience of it that you can't then try to figure out a way around it. So I think this is a pretty simple reading. It's not a simple situation though. But again, I think that if we're feeling too overwhelmed about things, particularly about our own material security or our health or what have you, because the Five of Pentacles sort of indicates both, especially with the guy on the crutches and the bandaged head, again, lots of options, lots of reasons, lots of ideas, but you've got to be able to sort them out and let go of the ones that you can't get fixated on because they're not doable. And I think that that's really what the Seven of Cups is saying. You can't get so caught up in the emotion of it that you can't see something that's realistic before you. And again, going to somebody else, maybe seeing a wise mentor of some kind, whoever that is, will help you find some kind of direction forward that will actually be helpful to you. So. And again, with Iwas, if we're talking about the connection between opposites, that person might be somebody that you wouldn't normally go to, maybe, but you realize that they really might have some answers, but maybe in the past you might not have really sought them out for anything like that. So it could be that sort of situation. So be willing to consider somebody that maybe you might, maybe it's an uncle that you don't really like all that much, but doggone it, he knows things. And so it's like you swallow your pride and you go talk to Uncle so-and-so, or something like that. Or maybe you're mad at your father, or not really comfortable with your father, but your dad knows some things that, or again, it could be a lawyer, somebody that you might, maybe you don't trust lawyers, but in this case, maybe you need to see one and see what you need to do there. Or if you're someone who is loath to go to doctors, maybe that's what you have to do. So in a sense, it's like stepping outside your comfort zone and seeking help from a source that you might otherwise not think about doing. So there's that as well. But at the heart of it, Laetitia, joy is is sort of being threatened, isn't it? And you have a right to live a joyful life. You just do. And this is not something where you need to be stuck in misery all the time. It's not your plight in life. I knew a guy one time that his whole attitude, he was like the embodiment of Murphy's Law, and he said so. If something was going to happen that was bad, it was going to happen to him. And it always did. But it's like he's drawing this energy to himself. He sees it himself this way. And so that is like the only thing that's going to ever happen in his life. Well, it just isn't true. And he could break that cycle if he wanted to, but he's stuck there. And it was very hard to have a conversation with him about anything because it always devolved into that. And it's like, well, there's lots of solutions here. Well, not for him. So it's that sort of thing, stepping outside your comfort zone to think that something is possible. And that's why I've always kept in the back of my mind with the Seven of Cups that this is about dreaming new dreams and new possibilities. How do you know if you don't throw stuff out there that's absolutely impossible to do? It might stimulate you to think about something that is, right? So I don't know. I'd always have trouble with the sevens and thinking about them in a truly negative way. But I think maybe this time we kind of have to do that a little bit. So anyway, I guess that's it. I think that ego, we talked about that earlier, and we could put a little bit of that into this maybe. But the idea about it, it's best now to have the flexibility and intuitive awareness to shift gears when your partner's concerns are factored in. Well, that could be modified a little bit as just having the flexibility and intuitive awareness to shift gears and to step outside your comfort zone and maybe talk to somebody that you might otherwise be reluctant to do that with. So they could have some answers that could help you. So think about that as well. Anyway, I guess that's it for a Monday. Interesting way to begin the week. But, it's just life. Things happen in life. I didn't anticipate being as ill as I was for as long as I was. And as long as I stayed on their hamster wheel, I did. And when I stepped outside of it and thought, well, I'm going to do something else here. And then I was surprised to see that I got well. And it ended up being the subject of my first book, Confessions of a Back Porch Herbalist. It was about my healing of rheumatoid arthritis with cannabis and other herbs. I don't know. I didn't expect that with it. I had started, although when we started the process of growing and all of that, I'd been reading everything I could get my hands on, anecdotal stories of people that had got well, with it. And so I started to have a little bit of hope over the summertime, but I was so ill that it was impossible to truly know until I did it. And then that happened. And I was shocked and pleased, obviously. So, and I have not had any return of symptoms in all these years. So for being as ill as I was, they even had me on a drug called Celcept, which is mycophenolate, and that's just, I guess they give it to people with lupus, but it's off label for RA, but they do give it. It's when there's just nothing else that's working, and it really, really suppresses the immune system. I think they said it's also a drug that they give transplant people that have organ transplants to help them not reject the organ. So super, super immunosuppressive, and it made me so ill. I didn't think I could feel any worse, and I did, and until I stopped taking it. And then my doctor just said, well, I've done all I can do for you. It's like, and like 2 weeks later, I started my regimen. I made my medicines and I started my regimen. I decided on what I was going to do, and I did it every day. And 2.5 months later, in the middle of March of the next year of 2011, I started in the last week in December of 2010. And by the middle of March, I was in remission. I'd come off of most everything. I had help with one drug from my primary care doctor, and then I stayed on another one for a little while longer, sporadically. And I probably could have gone off of it right then, but I didn't. I waited, and because I'd been so ill. And then I went off of it, and I've been fine. So I don't know. So I guess it's, stepping outside your comfort zone and trying something different, no matter what it is, can maybe make the difference in whatever you're experiencing. So anyway, that's why I shared all that. Otherwise, you can just go look at the book and I talk about it. In fact, I did a second edition on it and updated a few things and so I don't know. Sometimes you just got to take that leap of faith and try something that you think is just maybe just going to help a little, but not fix it. And you might be surprised what happens in the long run. You get that, in my case, it worked. So anyway, And I've been eternally grateful ever since. So anyway, thanks for watching, you guys. And, if you're in our area over here in the Pacific Northwest, or on the West Coast, actually, fires are everywhere, and stay safe and stay inside if you can. And, we're all wearing masks. Well, not we're all, but some of us are still wearing masks when we go to the grocery store. So if you need to, make sure you have them on when you're outside, because it'll help, keep the smoke out of your lungs. It's because sometimes around here we get this inversion, it just hangs, and all you see is just smoke. It's like, oh Lord. So anyway, that's not fun at all. But have a good week, and come back again on Thursday. Thanks for watching. And if you haven't clicked subscribe yet, I'd love you to do that and come back again and spend this time with me, and as we explore runes and tarot, and how they can give us some ideas on how to live our lives and deal with the issues that come up every day and all of that. And come back Thursday again for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.